I know that there's folks that are unable to join our session today and they'll look for the recording. Um, so what I'm sharing at the moment, if you can see properly, is the painting that we'll be conducting in just a few minutes. My name is So-Yeon. I'm basically I guess the artist pseudo artist, if you will. I feel like I'm always a learner versus an artist per se, in the sense that I feel like we are all artists. So how else to, express ourselves other than appreciate the works of such as Vincent van Gogh, or Vincent van Gogh as we know him. And we're gonna paint this wonderful sunflowers painting. It's one of 11 different sunflower paintings that Vincent did in his very short life of 37 years. So if you could have that like at the ready when we get ready to start painting. And I also put the link in the chat window as well. Just a little quote to start us off on this session. Vincent says in one of his letters that the desire comes over me to remake myself and try to have myself forgiven for the fact that my paintings are, however, almost a cry of anguish while symbolizing gratitude in the rustic sunflower. I feel like there's a lot that he's saying here to his brother Theo in this. It's an excerpt from one of Vincent's letters. The sunflower meant a lot of things to Vincent. You see the words rustic, you see the words gratitude, and you also see how he was in a lot of emotional anguish at the time. He was suffering from the likes of depression, some suspect bipolar as well. In any case, he did his most great work during the 3-year period where he was suffering from depression, is what I've been reading. And that in a way, for him to go to the countryside in France was to be able to kind of connect with the locals there. And the simple rusticness of the countryside made a big impression on Vincent. Um, and he's almost aware of his emotional anguish, as you can see from this quote. Let's talk a little bit about the artist today. And of course, I'm not making any claims whatsoever in terms of my artistic ability, nor would I expect you to have, huge expectations for any of us to realistically portray Vincent's style. I think this session is ultimately about learn by doing, meaning you are my accountability partner. We both appreciate Vincent. We're going to learn about his techniques. We're going to learn a little bit about his history. And really, it's a journey of self-expression today for us to appreciate his sunflowers. So as you well know, Vincent's one of the most popular post-impressionist painters. He sold one painting, I believe, towards the end of his 37 years. His use of brilliant color, even his foresight in terms of knowing that the colors he would use at the time would fade or get discolored over time, was something that amazes me. We could talk a bit about that in relation to this particular painting. He moved around a lot of his life. And so in essence, he was a traveling painter, if you will. And he had some different friendships as well with other painters, some controversial. I just want to make sure, is there somebody, there's a chat question. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but we can appreciate him, now, over 100 years later. One thing that gets lost, and I think is starting to become more well-known, is when Vincent died, his brother Theo, who he was very close to, died 6 months after Vincent. And then Theo's wife, was left a widow. She was 28. Her name's Johanna. And she was the one that ultimately brought to light Vincent's various letters, like 600 or so letters. And his hundreds of paintings that he did in that very short span, which, you know, we mentioned, you know, a lot of the most um, poignant ones were done during this period of depression. And also he spent a year in the asylum as well. And that's when he did the Starry Night, which is a prior Van Gogh session that I did with some of the folks here several months ago, I believe. So basically, there's some controversy even about his suicide, that some suspect it wasn't really a suicide. In any case, he lived a very impactful short life. He left us a lot to take in. And if you haven't seen his work in person, I highly recommend it, because there's definitely a difference when you get to see the 3D version of his work. So I'm just going to kind of populate a few examples. So this one is called "For Sunflowers Gone to Seed." So he did several of these sunflowers and their life cycle towards the end. This one being like towards the end. What I love about this one is just like the different, like the strokes here and the use of color. I mean, there's basically a whole palette within the sunflower that's gone to seed, which is amazing. Some of the art critics at the time wrote about his sunflowers as this obsessional passion for the solar disk, which he loves to make shine in the blaze of his skies. And at the same time, for that other sun, the vegetable star, magnificent sunflower, he paints over and over without wearying, like a monomaniac. How are we to explain it if we refuse to acknowledge his persistent preoccupation with some vague and glorious heliomythic allegory? I really don't know what that means. However, yeah, the art critic here is saying how the sunflower is akin to the sun. And we know from his Starry Night as well, like he had a very unique way of depicting stars and the moon. And I wonder if it's all connected in some way. So let's look at another one. This is another example of like towards the end of the sunflower life cycle that Vincent did. It's just amazing. Look at the accent of the petals that are closest to the sunflower. Look at like the weave type effect that he did with his paintbrush, and just the use of color and like the brush strokes being stronger in certain areas, being lighter in others. He's accenting, you know, some of the leaves here or the petals that embrace the seed. Just some things to be mindful about as you start sketching with me and painting with me in a little bit. So this is another excerpt from Vincent's letters. He's just kind of mentioning how sunflowers are basically like an inspiration for him. He's explaining the various ones. We actually did a sunflower session like last year as well. It was the one with the royal blue black background that got lost in a fire in Japan. So it was amazing to recreate that with several folks. And you can see an image of that through the links here in the presentation as well. And he also, like, you know, laid out a plan. He made 11 sunflowers ultimately, but he had this plan of making a dozen or so. All right, here's another one. This one's in the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Interesting, like the sea mint background, along with the yellowish table. The sunflowers here are various kinds, just like the one that we'll be painting shortly. You'll see some unique accents, like this reddish accent on this sunflower, and then a sunflower almost gone to seed on this left-hand side. There's the teddy bear sunflowers. These are actually my personal favorite. And as you can see, he builds up texture in these petals here. Another little excerpt from his letters. He's saying that I'm thinking of decorating my studio with half a dozen painting of sunflowers. Um, Harsh or broken yellows will burst against various blue backgrounds, from the palest Veronese to royal blue, framed with thin laths painted in orange lead, sort of effects of stained glass windows of Gothic church. So he was going after almost like a stained glass effect with these sunflower paintings. And he knew the color contrast between orange and blue, which is interesting. Um, he's known for his sunflowers, first and foremost amongst other artists at the time, and he was anticipating Gauguin, Gauguin, I believe, Gauguin, visiting him, which was kind of like a controversial 2-month period that he spent with the other artist. He originally intended to start an artist colony, which didn't happen. So there was some controversy there. Here's one more sunflower painting from Vincent. This is in Munich, Germany at the moment. This one's also similar to the prior one we just looked at from the Philadelphia Museum. But as you can tell, like once you get closer, like you can see the brush strokes that kind of like intersect in like geometric type squares in the background. So there's a lot of texture. And then you'll see some similarities to the other one that we just saw with like the reddish center. And then there's like a sunflower like going to seed on this side. So there's some similarities there. Let's talk about color a little bit more. So sunflower yellow for him was an emblem of happiness, and in Dutch literature, it's a symbol of devotion and loyalty. And in their various stages of decay, those flowers also remind us of the cycle of life and death. So his sunflowers use an impressive range of techniques, from tiny pointillist dots. So if you look at pointillists of the time, like George Seurat, like they just merely, use little tiny points of paint to paint the entire canvas, if you will. He embraced a lot of different techniques throughout his artwork. He used tiny dots as well, but he also used sculptural strokes like we saw in the backgrounds, and like elongated points, if you will. So a lot of strong brush stroke in his painting. He experimented against blue backgrounds, but later versions have yellow flowers in a yellow vase on a yellow table against a yellow wall. Yet the picture seems to radiate light. So yeah, some of the yellows have darkened over time, since it's been over 100 years. But he was also mindful of the color changes. He did not use color merely to imitate nature, but to express emotion. So here's the painting we'll be doing again. It's always good to like reinforce the visual cues of where we're going to go. So for us, just lightly speaking in terms of the composition, it's going to be an overall yellow background. We're going to do like a backwash, if you will, to start once we start sketching. And then we're going to like look at the composition of the different sunflowers. So basically, I'm thinking of it as like left, middle, and right. So there's like 4 sunflowers on the left. There's about 6 teddy bears in the middle, and about 5 or so sunflowers to the right. And I'm thinking about like the lower top bottom third being that grounded yellow table, and the vase itself being, towering up from the middle. Just some visual cues for us to think about as we get ready to sketch and enjoy our time together. A little bit more on his letters real quick before we start sketching. This is an actual picture of his letter. So he intended for some of these sunflowers to be part of a triptych or like a trio of paintings. So for example, We had the lady, the Bercus, the Madame here in the middle. He intended it to be in the middle. He intended this one, which is currently at the National Gallery of London. I think it's more of a less dynamic version, but it's probably faded over time as well. And that would have been, this would have been on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side would have been the Munich version, which I can bring up. Was it this one? Oh, sorry. Yeah, this one was the Munich version. This one would have been on the right-hand side of that triptych. It's interesting because at the time he was like, oh, well, this would be great to decorate the far end of a cabin on a boat. That's what he said in his letter. So this is just a close-up of the painting we'll be doing today. So I'm gonna stop screen sharing. Hopefully you have the painting open in a window alongside you. And I'm gonna start screen sharing my other screen, which would be the palette window. Hopefully Zoom will let me do that. Where are you? There's my palette. Spotlight for everyone. Yay, it works now. Thank you. Thank you for suggesting I restart my Zoom. All right, so I have a range of colors. It's up to you how you want to express yourself along. Yes, we are recording. It's up to you how you want to express yourself in terms of the colors that you picked today. So the colors that we're going to be using are mainly a lot of yellow, as you can see from the painting itself. So I have primary yellow, I have yellow ochre, I have like a more orangey yellow, and then I also have some other ochre tones related to this one. I have like a greenish tone for the stems. I have a lot of white because we can even make some of like the orangey yellows with a combination of red and yellow. And then I have a little bit of blue because on the right hand side of the painting you'll see a lot of blue in one of the middle parts of the painting itself. Then I have my canvas. Today I'm just using a wooden board, but really it's up to you. Like if you have a piece of paper, a canvas, a board like me, it doesn't really matter, whatever you're comfortable with. And so this is going to be my vertical view of the painting itself. And let me just make sure everyone has the painting link to put alongside the Zoom here. I just put it in the chat window so you can follow along. So what I do is I kind of like use my mouse to minimize my screen and put the other screen alongside it, the one that I put the URL in, just so you can like follow along with the actual painting itself. Okay. All right, so we're gonna start sketching first. And there's no right or wrong to this. If you are way ahead of me, like feel free to carry on. If you're slower than my progress, that's okay too. You can always take time to finish yours at your leisure after this session. My goal is just to provide some loose guidance on what I see as part of this painting, in essence, by us doing this to learn by doing. So kind of going through probably what Van Gogh or Van Gogh was looking at when he was composing these different paintings. So let me first start with the structure of it from a sketching perspective. I'm using a pencil. Feel free to use whatever you'd like to do the sketching part. Just be aware that if you're looking for a lot of guidelines, then you probably want to use a stronger pencil to make that sketch, because once we do the backwash in like a yellow, you may or may not be able to see all your pencil marks, if that makes sense. So just to start, really easy, the bottom third of the piece, the vertical piece, would be the yellow, dark yellow table, right? So I'm literally just drawing like in a little line horizontally to just depict the line of the table itself. And as you can see from Vincent's line, it's also not like a perfect straight line either. It's just kind of like, actually the left-hand side seems a little bit higher than the right-hand side. And so the table's tilted ever so slightly. Up to you how you want to depict that. Now I'm going to depict the vase. So the vase itself, halfway through it, you'll see his name signed in blue, right? So I'm just kind of loosely looking at the vase shape. It comes in at the bottom a bit, and then it has like a curved bottom. So I'm just depicting that from a sketching perspective. And you can tell like the vase itself is two-toned as well, right? So what we're gonna do is just kind of depict that two-tone like a very loose U shape for the vase, the two-tone of the vase, like so. It's okay that it intersects with the invisible line behind it, for example. We're gonna paint over all of this, so these are just guides for our eyes. And then, you know, there's gonna be like a Vincent signature. Up to you if you wanna copy that or not. I mean, this is not a reproducing session. This is merely for our individual enjoyment of self-expression. So there's that. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we're gonna look at this to make it feasible for us. We're gonna look at this from a left sunflower, middle sunflower, and right sunflower section. And if I do seem like I'm going too fast, the session is gonna be recorded, so you can feel free to view it again at your leisure and finish off any particular details on your own. The only reason why I'm going a little bit fast is so that I can cover the general areas for you within the time allotted. So on the middle, let's just start with the middle real quick, because I think it's more feasible. There's some loose teddy bear circles. So they come down towards the middle of the vase. So at the very bottom, there's like a loose teddy bear, like a rough half circle at the bottom, right? That touches the top of the vase, if you will. And then there are, there's some petals here. So I'm just kind of depicting like loose moon shapes or triangle shapes, just for the petals here. As you can see, they're like little like triangular shapes around the curvature of the teddy bear type sunflower. Now this sunflower is eclipsed by a bigger teddy bear sunflower in front of it. So I'm just kind of depicting that bigger, looser, circular shape of the teddy bear on top of it. Now that sunflower, teddy bear sunflower, is met by a sunflower to the right of it, alongside of it. It's like partially covered, right? So I'm just kind of depicting that here, like a reverse C shape, if you will. And then just to ground ourselves on where things are, the middle part where you see the green, light green middle part, I'm just kind of depicting loose shapes for that. In the middle, it's not a perfect circle. It's kind of like almost like an eyeball shape. So I'm just kind of roughly doing that. And then as you can see, the one eclipsed also has a little bit of that here, like a reverse C to depict the middle of that sunflower. So great, we got most of the sunflowers on top of the vase covered. We'll come back to the side ones in a little bit. Let's get ourselves grounded in the main area, the middle part here. So I'm scooching up just a little bit here. As you can see in the middle part, we got two stems coming up, the green ones. So there's one here, And there's a thinner one next to it here. And then, so yeah, just kind of like depicting like a column shape, if you will, two little columns. And then it's met by another teddy bear sunflower, like so. So it's like a round shape here, and that eclipsed by another one behind it. And then there's one to the right-hand side of it. So I'm just imagining the stem coming down here. And then there's a petal one here, just roughly just putting some placement there. And then there's the very tallest sunflower of the entire piece. As you can see, it comes up towards the top of the painting itself, but not at the end. There's a little bit of space on top. And actually, it's known that Van Gogh put a strip of wood at the very top of this. So he may originally have made this less space on top. That's why he added the strip of wood. So just something to be aware about. And then I'm just depicting the middle part of that. And then the middle part of this one, another abstract shape here, and then the middle part of the one behind it. Okay. So since we've done our teddy bears, we feel good about that. We now are gonna graduate to the petal sunflowers on both sides. So I'll go to the one between these two teddy bears. So there's a circular middle. There's a blackish outline with a circular orange center. And then we have the long triangular petals, which I'm just kind of depicting the leaves, the petals as these angled petals just going around the entire circle. And then some of it meets the other sunflowers. There we go. So the middle is done. I'm gonna go to the right and then the left. The right. So on this sunflower with the black outline, to the right of it, there's a sideways sunflower, if you can see that. That sideways sunflower is facing like the right corner of the room. So to me, the way that we can depict that sideways sunflower is kind of like it almost looks like a box shape. So it's like this, and then the leaves come towards the back of it, if that makes sense. So I'm like sketching the leaves to be in a triangular shape towards the middle of the piece. So it's like the front of that sunflower is facing that way. So we got that one. And now, if we look below it, there is a stem that comes off of behind the teddy bear sunflower here, and it goes up and then kind of curves to like a teddy bear sunflower that's facing down a little bit, slanted down. So I'm just kind of depicting that rough shape with the green center here. It's got a big green leaf that comes off with a slant. And then this column stem, you know, it's a column, right? So I'm just kind of depicting the stem here that meets this teddy bear. And then there's another stem that comes behind it, like so. And then there's I like to start with the middle shape. It's that bluish. By the way, the artists at the museum in Amsterdam think the blue is actually faded to a blue, is originally like purple. Just something to be aware. So it's got that blue, like iris with the orange and black center. And then it's kind of not really circular at all. It's kind of like a little like angles here, right? So I depicted a little angle, and now I'm going to depict the triangular shapes around the entire flower. So it slants this way, it slants that way. And you can see the accents of some of these petals. He went back and accented some of the petals in like a darker orange. Something you can do at the very end. It's almost like an outline of sorts. Now to finish the right-hand side, we got one more thing. That one more thing is underneath the 3 teddy bears, there's a stem that comes to the right, and it's a sunflower facing down towards the table. So I'm just kind of depicting like a stem here, and then there's a triangle like flop down here. And I'm just depicting a triangle shape for the base of that sunflower facing down. And then what you'll notice is some very strong petal shapes that are triangular. Like this one is outlined in orange, as you can see. It's like a triangle. There's another one next to it. And then there's the petals to on top of it. So it's like a faucet almost. And then this triangular shape, to make it look more organic, you would depict the dark green petal base, like waves coming upwards, like so. Okay. So we're almost done with the sketch. We only have the left-hand side left. Hope you're still with me. Left-hand side, we got 4 petal sunflowers. Okay, so how should we start that? That one, we can start from, so we got the 2 stems, imaginary stem that comes off from the teddy bear on top. It goes, arcs to the left, and then you got a sunflower off to the side. With a black center or brownish center. So I'm depicting circular middle first, dark brown points. Then it's got the green stem leaves, yellow triangular leaf, green base, triangular yellow petals or diamond-shaped petals. Some very strong, sharp shapes here towards the left. Like almost like a moon shape petal here. Okay. Underneath this one, there's 2 sunflowers looking down. I like to use their middle as the fixture. So the dark orange center for one, and it's got leaves, petals and leaves coming out from it. Through its dark orange center, there's a sunflower that comes in front of it. So I'm drawing the stem for that. So it's like a upside down U almost. And as you can see, this one sunflower is looking down. So it's like a half moon looking down. And it's got like dot, dot, dot in the middle of it in the center. Just following the pattern of that moon shape. And then, as you can tell, some of the petals on top of it go the opposite direction. So depicting that, like so. All right, we got one more flower and then we're ready to start painting. So with this droopy down sunflower, there's a big green petal that comes out from under it. So depicting that. Like so, green petal. And then there's a stem that comes around like a S shape, a loose S shape with a sunflower looking down as well, or you see the back of it curved back. So you follow. And then there's almost like a slight, you can see the slight part of the middle part, the yellow part there. All right, I'm just gonna do a quick check. All right, now the fun begins. All right, we're gonna have lots of fun. Feel free to use a big brush if you have it. Just gonna do like a translucent yellow wash across the whole painting. And that will make us feel better, like we've made a ton of progress. All right, let me get my big brush out. So I'm using acrylic today. I'm just gonna use a lot of water so that we can still see some of the pencil markings as we go through the rest of the painting.
Can you show us your palette as well, how you're mixing things?
Yeah. So right now I'm not really mixing. I'm just using a yellow, just literally just a primary yellow, watered down for the background. And I'm just gonna let that dry for a second. So we're gonna do light to dark. So we got the yellow background, that's the lightest. The bottom will be a darker yellow. And then the flowers, they'll be like different graduated yellows, if you will. Like with the teddy bear sunflowers, I know they appear like brown almost, but just consider that over time, these colors got darker. So you can use different colors. For example, the blue, like I mentioned here on the right-hand side, that was actually a purple, is what the scientists at the museum suspect. So just keep that in mind. You have your own freedom of self-expression to use the colors that you feel would make sense for this. Um, and then the other thing to keep in mind is due to time constraints, we won't be able to focus on every, single brush stroke per se, but just from a takeaway perspective, if you're trying to mimic Vincent's technique, then just keep in mind he used a lot of texture for the teddy bear sunflowers. So how you build up that texture with like short brush strokes, that's fine. And then even if you zoom in on that link, you'll see that there's also texture differences in the yellow background itself. So kind of like his self-portrait where we saw geometric or square like short brush strokes that intersect. So it's as detailed as you want it to be. Just trying to share some pointers on his technique. All right, so let's start painting our sunflowers. I'm gonna start with the teddy bears because they seem like pretty feasible for me. I'm not gonna go as dark as the original painting. I have like an ochre though, I'll just show you. I have like a ochre that I'm gonna use. But if you take a quick look at those teddy bear flowers, they're not just like one color, like one ochre per se, right? And remember they've darkened over time. You'll notice that each teddy bear has splotches of graduated yellow as well. So I'm gonna build that texture in it to start. So I got my ochre and I am just lightly applying in like rapid brush stroke movement. And it's gonna take a couple of different layers, I think, to get the intended effect. And I'll come back and do the mint green centers later. But seriously, this is my favorite sunflower, is this teddy bear sunflower. You'll see it become more three-dimensional once we start layering lighter yellows on it and we get to the middle, like green center. But yeah, feel free to use short brush strokes on all the teddy bear sunflowers and we can build up from that. You might have to just play around with your different brushes to see which ones give you that intended effect. So I got the 3 teddy bears at the bottom, 3 on top, and then 1 on the side. Yeah, I think that's good. And then there's a similar color that's used for the middle sunflower. So I'm just gonna, since I have that paint ready, I'll just kind of do that. Come back to the black outline. I'm trying to see what else uses that. The back of this flower at the bottom uses some of that ochre. There's some ochre use in the left-hand side one. Some ochre on the slanted one. So this is just going to be build up of color. So I'm just kind of leveraging what I have on the brush. That's an orange. That's that. There's some ochre in this one facing sideways too. So I'm just kind of using short brush strokes for that. Okay. Now I have my brush and I'm actually going to use like a warmer yellow to build on top of that. So I'm going to probably use this yellow here. So I'm just going to do, just dip my brush into like a lighter yellow and just start building the texture for the teddy bear sunflowers. As you can tell, like there's some, you know, lighter splotches across these sunflowers. And he almost seems to use like a fanning technique a little bit. Like some of them look like lines versus points. It's up to you how you want to express that. So I'm using short brush strokes along with like some just drips or dots, if you will. This is like a fanned effect here. There's some light brush strokes here. Some yellow on top of this one. Some lighter petals here.
Is anybody else really far behind like I am?
Oh, it's okay. Take your time if you'd like. Yeah, we each have our own pace, so feel free to take as much time as you need. I'm just trying to give you the general guidelines. So yeah, I might be going faster than you want to at this point, but you can always refer to the recording. Just trying to get through as much as the painting for general guidance. And then make sure you try to enjoy it. Yeah, I got a little overwhelmed when I did the practice sessions for this. He makes it look not easy, but yeah.
There's so much going on.
He was a complex man, you know? He expressed such beauty in such simple things. It's amazing. All right, I'm gonna move on to the other sunflowers because I have yellow going, right? So I will use other yellows to kind of depict the petals. At the very end, what you'll want to do is if you look at the painting, he outlines each of the petals. So either you can paint the petals yellow and then outline them afterwards, or outline them first and then paint the inside of them, whichever works for you. So I'll do an example, like the left-hand side, right? There's a distinct petal form that we had sketched, like triangular right there. So I'm doing that and then making sure the center of that is like a yellow. Not meaning to rush you, just trying to get through. And you might get frustrated at some point, which is fine. I think it's part of the process. Just keep pushing through it, keep adding layers, and you'll get through it.
How long will your total presentation be?
It's through 1:30. So my goal, so we have about 45 minutes left. So my goal is to get through most of it by then. But
okay, thank you.
That's no means pressure for you to get through most of it. meaning like feel free to take your time. Like I've had folks that just finish their paintings after, and which is fine by me too, because I like to add some details at the very end as well.
The thing is, if we fall too far behind, we pretty much just have to stop and then start again some other day. If we've like missed so much,
Potentially, yeah.
which is not ideal.
Right. Well, it's Van Gogh, right? So it's really up to you how you want to use that time.
But we can re-watch the video, correct?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, by no means trying to rush anyone. Just trying to give you guys the loose observations that we have on this. I'm moving on to the greens. I think coloring some of the stems will make us feel good, like we're making a lot more progress. Feel free to just, if you're taking your time, just, you can just note what we're doing next. But yeah. There's something gratifying when you get to the middle parts of these teddy bears. I'm using a green gold color. I don't know why they call it green gold, but golden makes this a very light green color, which I've fallen for. It's just amazing. But you can see the paintings start to pop once we apply the green, which is kind of amazing. So with the centers, I'm just kind of loosely dotting them with the green or light green. If you prefer a lighter green, that's okay. So I'm just applying green to all the areas that need it, and then we can come back over it as well. Because even in the greens, there's variation if you look closely. On the upper left of the sunflower, it's like almost like a bright, darker green versus like the lime green in the middle of the teddy bears. These are just things to keep in mind if you'd like to emphasize the differences in the greens. I'm mixing a little white in my light green or green gold for the teddy bears, because I do realize the value of the lighter green. Just kind of going over those. Like, I realize why he used some of the colors that he used. It's very interesting. And the stem on the lower left is like a lighter green than the others, I'm noticing as well. I'm going back over the sunflowers with another yellow. There's so many yellows to choose from. I think I'm gonna use a what's it's called like a diary light yellow. So it's kind of like a warmer yellow, like almost like a orange. And then I'm probably gonna use a brighter yellow here, primary yellow, or cadmium yellow light. I actually, this one is cadmium yellow light that I'm going to use just to add more texture. It'll make the flowers seem more realistic. Not trying to get realistic, but more texture in these flowers.
Thanks so much. I'm going to watch the recording to finish off.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll send that through.
That's brilliant.
Thank you. So yeah, so I'm gonna start with my cadmium yellow light. It's like a very bright yellow. And I'm just gonna go over some of the petals and such that were not emphasized yet. I'm excited for the blue accent. Still trying to decide if I'm gonna do purple like the original or if I'm gonna do like a light blue. But I feel like the composition, like it was meant to be. Like he has these unique accents in his paintings that I like. Short brush strokes for the petals. And just kind of go over the teddy bears with, you'll see light spots, kind of like accent those light spots, because they'll bring three-dimensionality to the flowers. And I would say it took me a few practice sessions to kind of be okay with what I put together. So please don't feel bad if it doesn't come out necessarily the way you want it to. Just try again if you'd like to. But in any case, it's your self-expression. So I'm sure it looks beautiful in all the different ways. We each have, you know, our different ways of self-expression. So just keep at it, I would say. It's been a journey for me as well, trying to just appreciate these sunflowers. But if you give them love and a lot of attention to detail, I think it comes through. Let's see. Okay. Some more accents on the sunflowers, and then we'll work on the vase and the background more. So darker accents on the sunflowers. On the upper left, there's the darker center and the red, warm orange, blood orange center as well. So I'm going to start with the blood orange center. I'm mixing a red and the ochre for that. So I mixed red and ochre for this. Okay. And then I'm going after the orange. Oops, that's a little too red. I'm going after the upper left. It kind of has this like orange bottom with the upper top being brownish black. Brownish. And then it's got points of yellow on top of the black. Okay, and then we have the, in the center, the orange center with the black outline. orange center. It's a roughly shaped black center there. And then we have the the blue and orange center on the right hand side. I'm gonna do a light blue. It's got a little ochre center. Now I'm gonna just go over the rest of the sunflowers again with additional layers of color that I think it would need. Okay. Right. Hopefully you're in the zone. We made a lot of progress. And it's okay if you want to come back to it too later. Sometimes it's good to detach and come back. All right, I'm gonna work on the background and the vase. So basically, gonna go over the entire background again, but in intersecting short brush strokes, because if you zoom in, you'll see a lot of intersecting short brush strokes on the yellow background. The bottom third is more of a deeper yellow, so I'm gonna do like an ochre on that. Light warm ochre. So he uses horizontal and vertical brush strokes that kind of intersect to create texture. So horizontal, vertical brush strokes. It's so interesting how little things like backgrounds make the painting pop as well. You'll notice a very fine line of orange that delineates between the background and the table. Mine's a little bit fatter than I like it to be, but I can fix that. And then I'm gonna go over the vase. The top half of the vase is kind of like a darker color than this bottom background. And a little bit more golden. Very light ochre for the bottom half of the vase, or like a beige, pale beige. So I mix white with the ochre to create that color for the bottom half. I'm gonna do a light blue for the border between the top half and the bottom half of the vase, kind of using the blue that we leveraged for the right-hand side sunflower. Just even that blue line makes a huge difference, I think, in the painting itself. And also the vase is outlined in like a duller brown or duller orange. My canvas is probably, let's see here. It's 11 inches wide, and so it's like 14 by 11. Do I have centimeters? Yeah, it's the height is like just over 35 centimeters. So yeah, that's like my hand. So it's about 2.5 hands length height. Does that make sense? I love his signature. I'm not trying to, I just want to depict it a little bit like that. It's like part of the painting, I think. All right, so to finish is the intersecting brush strokes of yellow in the background. I'm going to use my bright yellow for that. Just making sure that I do the intersecting brush strokes. At the very end, I highly recommend coming back with a fine, thin paintbrush and doing the outlines, because they will make the flowers pop. So if you zoom in, Vincent actually outlined the petals with like a darker color. So once the paint dries a bit, I highly recommend coming back and doing that fine detail. It'll make the painting pop even more.
How long will the video be available for us?
At least 30 days.
Okay, thank you.
And do we just access the video through the same Zoom link?
I'll send an email.
Bless you. I'm doing this in oils on a
Oh, wow.
16 by 20. So I'm going to be doing this all day with you, but I wouldn't have had the courage to try it if I hadn't have seen you do this. So
Oh,
bless you.
oh,
I
thank
really,
you so much.
yeah, really enjoyed this.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and we're just about out of time, but please be patient with this. It might, you know, take as much time as you need with this. And I've had to try a few times myself before I got a feel for the painting. And look, Van Gogh did it 11 times. So, you know, they say practice is perfect. I hope you got something out of this. And I really feel like we're bringing him back to life in some ways by appreciating his work and trying to go through some of the brush strokes he may have gone through doing this. It's been a pleasure painting with you all today. I'll post the final one on Instagram later. Just what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back with that fine paintbrush and do the outline of some of the petals, the strong, you know, angular petal strokes that he's done, and then it'll make this whole thing pop even more. But I really hope that you enjoyed this session. Hopefully I was able to convey some of Vincent's feeling and emotion doing this painting. It's been hugely gratifying to try to do this with you. So feel free to share your works of art as well. And I'm gonna leave you with a poem. I'm a poet and artist, so and I truly believe we are all artists. This is from my latest poetry book on Amazon. It's called Depth and Clarity. So it's a haiku book with artwork, my artwork in it, and photography. But I did a poem on sunflowers. So here's the book. If you're interested, it's on Amazon. So Sunflower Naps is the name of the poem. Sowed sunflowers face the sun. Big bumblebees happily nap, sheltered by petals. So that's my mini haiku for sunflowers. Thanks for listening to that. My son and I, what we did, this was a few years ago, we planted some of those really tall sunflowers, and I know Van Gogh also painted one, really like a tall one in one of his paintings. And we were watching the bumblebees just happily go in and out of these sunflowers. And there was a bumblebee in one of them, and he was like literally covered in the pollen of the sunflower. And he was just like napping inside this huge sunflower. And that's where this poem came from. Just the simpleness of the sunflower, just being appreciative of it. It's been a beautiful flower to appreciate. And I'm so glad Van Gogh or Van Gogh, if you prefer, gave us his various sunflowers. And as my gratitude to you, I'm also going to share with you the prior Van Gogh sunflower session I did several months ago. That was the one that we did of the one with the royal blue background that got destroyed in a fire in Japan over 50 years ago. But we recreated that in a Zoom session several months ago. So as part of the recording, I'll send that out to all of you as well. Thank you again for joining. And there'll be another session in about a month's time. So Thank you, and good luck with your pieces of work. I'm sure they're all individually self-expressive and beautiful in their own right. So thanks again for joining.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I loved it. You're a great teacher. Thank you. And so lovely.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Hey,
this
it
was
really
fabulous.
fun.
Thank you so much.
And where are you from? Where do you live?
Oh, I forgot to say. I'm in Northern Virginia in the US. So
And
yeah.
I'm from Vancouver Island in Canada. Where's everybody else from?
Oh, that's amazing.
Toronto, Canada.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I'm from
Philadelphia.
Cheshire in England.
I'm out in Maui, Hawaii.
Oh
I'm
my-
in England.
Tallahassee, Florida.
I'm in California.
Wow, that's amazing to have.
I'm in
Edmonton.
Calgary, Alberta.
That's so
Wow.
fantastic. I love that.
This was super fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Yeah.
all.
And if you do another class, if you could email us all, we'd probably all love
Yes,
you.
please do.
Yeah, I'll include the next class link in the recording email I send out in
Great.
later.
How cool.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great one. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.